How's it going today, guys? Welcome back to Marijuana Stocks, where we're talking about everything related to investing in the marijuana industry. If you guys are new to this channel and you have not yet subscribed, make sure you do that after you watch this video if you want to be updated on everything having to do with the marijuana industry and investing in marijuana stocks. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about how you can actually invest in the marijuana industry, and you can actually do so through 4 different investment avenues that we're going to discuss going forward. So when it comes to investing in the marijuana industry, there are primarily 2 different ways that people are doing this, and that is by gaining either direct exposure to the industry or indirect exposure. So you can gain direct exposure to the marijuana industry through a company that is actually producing or cultivating the marijuana product itself, and an example of this would be a growery or a dispensary. And you can get indirect industry exposure by investing in a company that is not directly involved with the actual production of the cannabis, but they will benefit from the growth of this industry. So when you ask most people how to invest in marijuana stocks or weed stocks, they're frequently going to tell you to go out there and buy a Canadian weed stock, and this is the way that most people are doing this, and this is a means of getting direct exposure to this industry. But there are actually 3 other ways you can invest in the marijuana industry, and those are what I want to point you towards in this video, just so you are aware that there are different options out there, and each of these different options carries a different level of risk and reward potential. And so I know a lot of people are fearful about the marijuana stocks because they have appreciated so much already, and it is high risk territory as this is a brand new and emerging industry. But if you are looking to get lower risk exposure to the cannabis industry, this can be done through indirect exposure. So how can you get exposure to the marijuana industry? Well, number 1, like we said, you can invest in a company that is involved in the cultivation or production of medical marijuana, and primarily this is going to be the Canadian weed stocks. So these are companies that are actually producing and selling medical marijuana right now, primarily in Canada, and these companies are operating a legal business, but this is going to be the highest risk and highest potential reward territory for investors because you're investing solely in one company or a handful of companies. Now, option number 2 is going to piggyback off of this, and this is to invest in a marijuana or cannabis ETF or exchange traded fund. And all you're doing here is investing in a pool or a collection of different cannabis related companies. So in this case, rather than investing in one company and putting all of your money on one bet, you're going to be investing in a number of different companies out there that are involved in the marijuana industry. So this is going to give you diversified direct exposure to the marijuana industry. It is still higher risk, but it is lower risk than individual stock ownership because you don't have all of your eggs in one basket. Now, the third way you can get in on this growing industry is to invest in a US company that will likely benefit from this growth of the industry, and this is getting indirect exposure at this point. So you're investing in a company that is not directly involved in the production of the cannabis, but they're operating a business that is complementary to this industry and will likely benefit. So just for an example's sake, let's say you wanted to invest in a company that is involved in hydroponics and you came across Scotts Miracle-Gro and said this is an interesting investment because Scotts Miracle-Gro is not primarily involved with the production of the cannabis. They don't have their hands in that business, but they do have their hands involved in the hydroponics business, and you might be interested in investing in Scotts Miracle-Gro because they will likely benefit from the growth of the marijuana industry because a lot of cultivators are buying hydroponics equipment, and a lot of that equipment is being supplied by companies like Scotts Miracle-Gro. Now, with indirect exposure, your actual exposure to this industry is going to be lighter, and as a result, it's going to be lower risk and lower potential reward. So let's say, for example, you're investing in a company that has a small piece of that business involved in hydroponics. Let's say 10% of their business is hydroponics and 90% is something else. Even if that business explodes for them, that's only 10% of their business. So as a result, you're not going to see explosive growth with that company in terms of revenue or earnings, and as a result, not an explosive growth in that share price. So it's going to be lighter exposure, but the benefit with this approach is that because this is a very small piece of their business, if it doesn't pan out for them, they still have an entirely different business to fall back on. Where these Canadian marijuana stocks, where they're primarily involved with the growing and production of medical marijuana, if that business didn't pan out, then they would likely be going bankrupt. And then the fourth and final way you can get exposure to the marijuana industry is, again, indirect exposure through biotechnology and pharmaceutical companies. So there are a number of different companies out there that are either researching, developing, or producing a cannabis-based drug for some kind of medical treatment. And there are a number of reasons why you might want to avoid this investment avenue. Biotech companies and pharmaceutical companies are incredibly volatile just due to the nature of their business. A lot of these companies are riding on FDA approval. It's not something I like to get involved with myself as an investor, but if you do have experience with the biotech or pharmaceutical industry, you might be interested in getting exposure to the marijuana industry by investing in some biotech companies that are either researching or producing a cannabis-based drug. Now, I do want to warn you that many of these companies out there that are researching a cannabis-based drug are clinical stage biotech companies, which means they don't have a drug on the market, they have no way to make money or revenue, and as a result, they are in research-only mode. And if they don't get a drug on the market, it's just a matter of time until these companies are going bankrupt. So they have to get a drug on the market in order to be making revenue and turning a profit. And most of these biotech companies out there that are researching cannabis drugs are clinical stage, and they do not have a means to make a profit. The other issue with this investment avenue is that a lot of these large pharmaceutical companies that are researching a cannabis-based drug have dozens of different other drugs on the market, and again, that makes exposure to this very light. Even if that drug is a big winner, it's going to be diluted by all of the other drugs that company is already producing. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up this video. Those are the 4 ways you can get exposure to the marijuana industry, and each of these is going to carry a different level of risk and reward potential. Now, if you're looking to learn more about investing in marijuana stocks, I do have the marijuana stock investing course. It is going to be opening up very soon. You guys can join the waiting list in the description below. There's a link for that, and by doing so, we're going to send you a $10 off coupon when this course is actually released. But in that course, we're going to be talking about 19 different potential investments, all of which are involved in these 4 investment avenues to gain exposure to the marijuana industry. And again, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell for notifications, and I will see you in the next video.